This talk is jointly presented by PolyU and also ISGS Hong Kong. We are extremely lucky today to have with us two excellent researchers, fantastic speakers, Pilar Prieto and Florence Baills. We have been trying to get them to come to speak to us at ISGS Hong Kong for a little bit because I thought that their work connects really, really well with some of the things that we have been hearing from other speakers over the past months. And my personal interest is second language acquisition and gesture, so I thought this is fantastic. So they both work in Catalonia. Florence is lecturer at the University of Lleida, and Pilar, and I'm sorry, I should be saying Dr. Dr. Baills, Dr. Prieto, working at the Catalan Institute for Research and Advanced Studies, or the Department of Translation and Language Sciences of the University of Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona. They have been working together, they tell me, for over 10 years now on a number of projects. So not only on gesture second language acquisition, but also first language. And they cover all aspects of gestures, including the effects that these have on cognition, on emotion, pragmatics, semantics. So very, very wide field. They have a lot to tell you, so I'm not going to take any more of their time. Just to remind everybody that we will have about 10-15 minutes at the very end for questions and answers. So you can always write them in the chat if necessary, so you don't forget them. Or at the end, just raise your hand and you can also speak to them. Again, for everybody who has just arrived, we are recording this. And without further ado, please help me welcome our two speakers today, Dr. Baills, Dr. Prieto. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Renia. We wanted to really thank you and Simon for this nice invitation. For us, it's a great opportunity to present the work that we have done together in these past 10 years. And we have grouped these studies that we will be presenting on this title, which is Embodied Prosody, A Path to Better Pronunciation in Second Language Learning. And we want to say first that, this is joint work with a number of dear people and dear members of our members and ex-members of our group of gesture and prosodic studies. And we have worked with them in all the papers that, in all the studies that we will present. I wanted to say that Lorraine and Charlotte on the bottom left are experts on the verbal tonal system, and this has been a very nice collaboration with the studies that we have worked on together. So that's very nice. So the contents of this presentation will be as follows. First, we'll be talking about the general motivation to use prosodic-based pronunciation instruction, and mainly embodied prosodic-based pronunciation instruction. What are the gains? Then the main part of the talk will be presented by Florence. And this is the experimental evidence that we have in favor of this type of training, like embodied prosodic-based training. And this will be like 4 studies, 2 studies on hand clapping. So the benefits of using hand clapping to the rhythm of the target words on improving pronunciation, and then general embodied prosodic training, looking at more the melodic features, using how using these type of gestures can improve general phonological structure. And then in part 3, we'll be moving to the classroom. We'll be talking about how to incorporate this embodied prosodic practice into the communicative language classroom, and we'll present 2 main strategies with pilot results. So that would be very interesting. We really look forward to your comments on all these studies, and that's we're really happy to to be able to present this to you and to talk about it at the end. So, okay, let's start with motivation. Our group is a group that started like 25 years ago, just focusing on prosodic structure, focusing on prosody. And we really believe that prosodic structure is an organizing principle of speech in general, of language performance. As soon as you want to speak, you need to organize your speech into chunks. You need to give prominence or tone to some parts. So you need an organizing a principle to do this in each language, right? So these prosodic elements, intonation, rhythm, prominence, phrasing, will be key in organizing spoken discourse. From a learning perspective, we know that the prosodic structure is used as a gateway for language learning. For example, in L1, we know that we have lots of studies showing that infants in the first years of life, they use various levels of prosodic structure to signal syntactic structure, word order, and many people advocate for the prosodic bootstrapping hypothesis in the first year of life. Also, we have evidence, more experimental evidence on the benefits of rhythmic priming, for example, in the when trying to boost a phonological production. So this evidence and also some other evidence coming from training studies basically motivate this idea that training phrase level prosody can bootstrap L2 phonological learning, right? And this is basically all the studies that we will present are linked to this idea, right? That prosodic structure is key in organizing language performance. Then we have the other part, which is the embodied part, right? Because you can train prosody just with the acoustic input, but you can decide to incorporate the embodiment, the visual, the gestural part. So following the embodied cognition paradigm, the claim is that sensory and motor information basically provide enhanced and richer versions of conceptual representation. So there are many studies showing that learning with levels of sensory and motor information produce enhanced learning, basically, right? And the idea is that our brain uses both abstract and embodied representations. So if we take this into account, we want to ask whether the positive effects of embodiment on learning can also be applied to phonological learning. And then we basically unite these two ideas, right? That embodiment can help phonological learning and prosody can help phonological learning. So the idea is that let's embody prosodic structure to boost general phonology. Okay, so if we look at prosodic studies on embodied phonological learning, we find nice results and also contradictory results. We could talk about these for hours, probably, right? Showing that we have benefits in some cases, in some cases it's not clear. So, I mean, there's many factors, affecting the effectiveness of these gestures. But in general, we could say that articulatory gestures that can be done with your hand can be promoting the learning of specific segmental features. Also, we have evidence that durational gestures, like showing the duration of syllables, can help improve your phonological contrast in an L2 based on length or vowel length. Also, we have many studies showing the effects of pitch gestures, so hands moving to the form of the pitch in the target phrase, that they help basically learn not only lexical tones, but also pitch contours. But this is not phrase-level prosody, right? The majority of these studies focusing on visuospatial gestures focus on highlighting local, segmental, syllabic, and pitch features. I want to go to the higher level or phrase level structure, which is the organizing sentences and discourse, right? We want to promote this part. So the question that will be surrounding this talk is, can we find experimental evidence for embodied trainings of phrase level prosodic structure? That's the question. And the hypothesis uniting part one on prosodic structures and part two on embodiment is basically the idea that, okay, we really believe that embodied training techniques focusing on phrase level structures will help boost L2 phonological structure. So that our main idea was to find evidence for this. Okay, so this is a general idea on how to improve pronunciation, and we have some very nice evidence coming from trainings, musical trainings with no speech, that also can boost the phonological structure of a target language. So music and speech share precisely these what we could call prosodic structures, right? Like different melodies, different rhythms, duration patterns, etc. And the idea is, if you train these without speech, you can also improve your abilities in second language pronunciation. So we wanted to show you this very nice video showing an instance of the Dalcroze method. And it is a method that basically was proposed at the beginning of the 20th century, and it's still used in music schools. And it's like embodiment method of music structures, basically. So that's what you do. Okay, so here you're basically with your body, you are marking rhythm and prominence, right? Basically it's a binary feet with prominence on the, on one of the ends of the feet, and then you do this with your body. So it occurred to us that a training involving all these activities, a 3-hour training could be, we wanted to test whether it could be good for improving your pronunciation in a second language, and also that you would be able to better imitate foreign languages, for example. And that's what we did in one of the studies. That's a study that we did together with Yuan Zhang. And if you are interested, you can look at language teaching, this article in language teaching. And basically there, we show that with a 3 1-hour session of these Dalcroze-based activities involving embodied musical activities, basically, and crucially, without any foreign language speech input, this is able to enhance speech imitation skills and also English second language pronunciation. And this was basically a reading task. So we have some evidence, right, that being exposed to these embodied musical activities with no language can be beneficial, right? We wanted to see whether adding speech to this, like adding a foreign language, is also beneficial, right? But we have at least some indication that basically promoting these different prosodic structures with no speech helps, right? So we still have, right, the question whether embodied prosodic training using the target language, now including speech, is useful, right? And well, we wanted to present you here with some experimental evidence for this. And I pass the floor to Florence that will present this part.
Thank you. So I'm going to try to share my screen with the sound and the screen too. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, we started the recording. I haven't
Yes,
said yes.
yes, I saw the small round red sign for recording. So in this part, we will present you with 4 studies that we carried out in order to test this hypothesis that embodying rhythmic and melodic properties of speech would help learners learn pronunciation. And so it's important, again, to say that this highlighting of the prosodic structure, we expect it to have an effect on a scaffolding mechanism, a scaffolding effect on the pronunciation of a full utterance. So in the first 2 studies, we asked whether rhythmic training with hand clapping benefit to pronunciation. So hand clapping, it's not only a hand movement, it's also a kinesthetic movement, which means that there is a touch sense also involved, which is really interesting. It makes this training not only embodied, but also multisensory. And hand clapping is really focused on rhythm. It's easily adaptable for any type of learners, especially children. It's also something that triggers really positive emotions. We usually clap our hands when we are happy about something, right? So we thought it would be really ideal to have an embodied training based on this strategy. So in the 2 studies we carried out, we had 2 different types of populations, Catalan children and Chinese adolescents. And we asked them to learn the pronunciation of completely new words. They were not learners of French, because French was a target language of all the studies that you will be seeing in this part. And so we asked them to learn the word either with hand clapping or without hand clapping. And we took words, so we consider words here as utterance, because in French it's completely possible to have the prosodic structure already at the level of a single word, which is appropriate for naive learners. If we ask for more, it would be too difficult for these learners. So these words for the Catalan children, they were cognates. So the form was very similar in the 2 languages. And the challenge for the learners was really to get away from the native pronunciation and learn the new pronunciation. While for the Chinese adolescent, the challenge was not only to pronounce the words, but also to learn this new form, completely new form. The procedure was the same for the 2 experiments. So we had our learners go through a pretest where they had to imitate the words. So they listened to them and imitate them immediately. And then they were separated into 2 groups in each experiment, and they went through an audiovisual training, which was very short, less than 10 minutes. And they learned 20 words in the following way. So, for example, in the clapping group, they first saw an image of representing the word they had to learn, and then they saw the instructor pronounce the word while clapping on each syllable. So there were different syllabic structures, 2 syllabic, 3 syllabic, 4 syllabic words. And so they were clapping on each syllable, and then they remained longer on the last syllable, like with their hands together, to symbolize this final lengthening that is typical of French prosody. So here, the learners not only watched the instructor do the hand clapping, but they also themselves produced it afterwards while repeating the word. They also clapped their hands. In the non-clapping group, they watched the instructor pronounce the word and repeated the words, but there was no hand movement involved in any way. And after this very short training, just after that, they again repeated the words, the same words as in the pretest. So here is an example of what the participants do. And This is taken from the second experiment with the Chinese adolescents. So to assess their performance, their production, we performed acceptedness ratings. So we asked 3 native speakers to listen to their production and give them a score from 1 to 7. 1 being the least accented speech, and 7 the more accented speech that they could listen to. So in this graph, on the left side, you have the results for the Catalan children, and on the right side, the results for the Chinese adolescents. And if you look at the bars, the first 2 bars are for the non-clapping group, and the second bars are for the clapping group. And together, next to each other, you can see pre-test and post-test. So you can see, for example, for the Catalan children, that in both groups, they decrease their accentedness, so they improve the pronunciation, but it was only significant in the clapping group. And in addition, when performing statistics, we found also a significant interaction, meaning that the clapping group improved better than the non-clapping. We could not reproduce these results with the Chinese adolescents. So the Chinese adolescent in the clapping group, they reduced significantly their accentedness. However, there was no interaction involved. So we wanted to see what could be happening there, and we decided to look at an acoustic feature, which is final lengthening in French. And we wanted to see if these learners, the Chinese adolescents, were able to do that. And if we could see this in the signal, right? So here are 2 examples taken from Prieto of the pronunciation of the word confiture. And you can see on the right the native pronunciation of the word confiture. And here you can see the longer, the long vowel and the longer duration of the final syllable, which is nuclear stress here, right? In the example on the left, this is a production by a Chinese adolescent, and it's very difficult here to see the final lengthening happening. So we extracted the length, the duration of the final syllable, and this is what we find. So for the two groups again, we find that in the clapping group, they increase the duration of the final syllable and also all the final vowel. It's not this graph, but we have a similar graph showing this. And that this was significant only for this condition, for the clapping condition, and we found an interaction. And we found the same for here for the Chinese adolescents. So it may be the case that the raters were not able to perceive this properly, maybe because of difficult segments or difficult consonant sounds that the Chinese adolescents were producing, that were more difficult to pronounce, and that lowered the ratings of our French native speakers. But all in all, right, and clapping highlights these rhythmic structures of the target language and helped improve pronunciation. And I would like also to mention here that this has been also tested with learners with higher proficiencies through the help of pitch gestures, perception and production. And so we don't have time to present this study, but we also have this evidence that at the structure of the discourse, a rhythmic training is also helpful to support pronunciation learning. So the second type of strategy we would like to show today is the prosodic hand gestures, and this helps embodying phrase level, not only rhythm, but also intonation. So our hand, what it does is mimicking the intonation and at the same time decelerating or accelerating or stopping in function of the rhythm of the utterance. So we want to see if they have an impact not only on suprasegmental features, but also on segmental features. And to do so, we carried out two experiments, complementary experiments with our partners, so our experts in the verbotonal method. And so in the first experiment, which is here experiment 3, we assessed the effect of embodied logatom, and in the other experiment, the effect of embodied speech directly. So what is a logatom? A logatom is a way to focus on prosody by using a simple syllable like da or la, replacing all segments in an utterance, and taking out all the difficulties that could come from the pronunciation of segments or the meaning of the sentence, right? And to focus only on prosody. So, for example, in the sentence, je suis désolé, da 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 da, right? So you would only say da 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 da. That would be a logatom. And you can accompany that with a hand gesture. And that's what they do in the verbotonal method. Okay, so that would be for experiment 3. And for experiment 4, we wanted to check what happens with speech and hand gesture directly without the logatom. Another difference between the two studies is that in experiment 3, the learner had to produce the gestures. So both studies were implemented within the curriculum of our students at university, but in the first study, it was on site, so we were able to monitor what was happening, while the second study occurred during pandemia and took place online. That's why in the first study, they were doing the gestures themselves also during training, while in the second study, we asked them only to observe the gestures and the training. And we know that both are valid because we already checked, and according also to the embodied cognition theory, both producing and performing gestures are beneficial for learning in general. Okay, and another difference in experiment 4 is that we focused also on segmental accuracy, and to do that, we selected 3 difficult vowel sounds in French and enriched the material, the stimuli, with these 3 difficult sounds, so that they were trained a lot more by the learners during the training phase. Okay. So let me show you an example of our stimuli. So for example, not embodied speech against embodied logatom in the first study.
Mais le facteur n'est pas rentré de sa tournée. Mais le facteur n'est pas rentré de sa tournée. Da 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 da. Mais le facteur n'est pas rentré de sa tournée.
So obviously, even if we use the logatom, we also had a repetition with speech after that, so that they would understand also the words that go together with the logatom. And that would be for experiment 4.
Juste un peu mal au cœur. Juste un peu mal au cœur.
All right. So the training program were very similar in both cases. It's 3 sessions each. They were working with dialogue, so lively situations, and also with the different types of intonation patterns. In the experiment 3, there were 3 dialogues trained in each session, in week 2, 3, and 4, whereas in experiment 4, they only work with 1 dialogue each time, but enriched with the difficult vowel sounds. In addition, in the experiment 4, we added a delayed post-test to see what happened 2 weeks after training. And okay, so this is an accelerated version of the procedure in the experiment 4. So everything goes faster than it happened in reality, but it gives you an idea of what the learners had to do.
Hey, salut Lucie! Salut Muriel, mais chut, ne parle pas si fort. Tu es folle. Où vas-tu? Faire un tour dans la rue.
Hey, salut Lucie. Hey, salut Lucie.
Right, so it's just to give you an idea of what they were seeing and doing. So they always had this natural conversation, also illustrating how the dialogue could unfold in reality. And of course, here you see things in English. It's translated for you, for the audience. And it was in French during this training. Okay, so what did we look at as measurements? In experiment 3, we performed ratings on all these 5 measures. So again, 3 native French speakers listened to the dialogues, and for each dialogue gave a score for each of these measures. And for experiment 4, so we had 2 tasks, not only dialogue reading, but also sentence imitation. And the raters only rated on accentedness and comprehensibility measures. And we performed acoustic measures on the front difficult rounded vowels that we wanted to focus on. So this is a result for experiment 3 in terms of ratings of accentedness and suprasegmental features. So here in the graph, you have the 3 conditions: speech only, logatoms without gestures, and logatoms with gestures, so embodied logatoms. And you can see that at pretest, so and from pretest to posttest, in each group there is an improvement. Everyone improved significantly because they repeat the dialogues and they train on each sentence. So obviously there is an improvement everywhere. But we find an interaction showing that the embodied logatom, the group that performed embodied logatom did better than the speech-only group, okay? And it's not the case for the non-embodied logatom, so without the gesture. We find the same tendency or the same results for the suprasegmental features. So it is said again, the embodied logatoms group perform better than the speech-only group in terms of suprasegmental accuracy in this dialogue reading task. Okay. However, we didn't find any significant difference for the rest of the measures. For experiment 4, for accentedness, we replicated the results from experiment 3, but of course now with speech and not logatom. So the gesture group improved from pretest to posttest. I'm not sure. Yes. Okay. So this is a dialogue reading task, and this is a sentence imitation task. But in both tasks, we have the same trends. And so there was a significant improvement from pretest to posttest and from posttest to delayed posttest, because one more repetition made them improve even more. And we think that the gesture had an impact of, yes, reactivating like the memory of how these words were pronounced, right? And this doesn't happen in the no gesture condition. So there is an improvement from pretest to posttest, but not really to delayed posttest. As for the difficult vowel sound, vocalic sound, so we performed an acoustic analysis. So we looked at the F2 values, because if you looked at this chart, at the vocalic chart, the vowel chart, oops, this is okay. So this sounds, which would be more native, like for like Catalan speakers, should move here to be more fronted and closer to French targets. So they should have a higher value. And so this is what we found again. So non-embodied against embodied groups at pre-test, post-test, and delayed post-test. And for the vowel U, we find a significantly higher F2 values at post-test and at delayed post-test. The same from and the same for E, except here maybe at delayed post-test for this particular vowel, there was no further improvement, but it was still maintained. I don't show you the graph for the sentence imitation task, but the results are the same, are similar. So to summarize, there are significant improvement in accentedness and supra-segmented accuracy for dialogue reading thanks to embodied logatoms, but we didn't find such results for comprehensibility, fluency, and segmental features in experiment 3. However, in experiment 4, when we enrich our materials with difficult sounds, we do found an improvement on segmental features too, right, which become more target-like. And this is not only true for discourse reading, but also for sentence imitation. And we see that thanks to the delayed post-test, there is persistence of these training effects, at least over weeks. So we saw that embodied phrase-level prosodic properties seems to act as scaffolding mechanism for L2 speech production and support phonological learning of both prosegmental and segmental features. And now we would like to see, thanks to this experimental evidence, we want to move to a more implemented type of research and see how this could be integrated into a communicative second language classroom. So we have two strategies. I'll show you the first one, and the second one will be Pilar's. So the first strategy is very much related to the last study I presented. So it's implementing prosodic gestures in the classroom. So we see that it's possible to use it with a meaningful context, such as dialogue. So in the experiments I show you, it was an individual task, but it could perfectly be done in a pair and be in a communicative, implemented within a communicative activity. Then the materials could be enriched. So we saw an example of enrichment of segmental features, but we could also enrich with different pragmatic context and different pitch contours that would be, important to learn for good communication in the foreign language, right? And so we implemented short consecutive sessions, so very short training. It's possible to do that, but using gesture in the classroom is also compatible with recast, with immediate feedback. So you don't need any material, you only need your hands. So in a way, it's very practical. However, there is this remaining question, which is how well can a language teacher actually perform this gesture spontaneously if they can do it properly, right? So that's why a new project is to explore the production of gestures by future teachers, in this case, teachers of Spanish, right? Which gesture do they use spontaneously to teach pronunciation? How producing this gesture modify the way you pronounce the sentences in terms of pitch contour, in terms of rhythmic patterns, and then how well, they are able to mimic the pitch contour with the gesture, and if they do it properly. So I just want you to show you an example how one participant has done this.
María come mandarinas.
Okay, so the sentence is Maria come mandarinas. Maria eats tangerines, right? So you see, it's pronounced normally and with a low final tone. Here is how she does when she's asked to do it spontaneously with gestures without any instructions, any further instructions.
María come mandarinas.
Oops, sorry. So you see that she does a lot of gestures and stop a lot between each part of the utterance, so it's changing a lot the rhythmic patterns.
María come mandarinas. María come mandarinas.
And the final part of this video is how she's doing with the pitch gesture. So remember, when she pronounced it, she pronounced it with a low pitch accent at the end. And look at her hand.
María come mandarinas.
So she's raising her hand. So it's going the other direction. So it's not what we want. So it's a challenge, really, I think, even for teacher to maintain the correct pitch contour, the rhythm, to adequate the hand movement to the pitch contour. So I'm passing this slide because I want to give the floor to Pilar again, but this requires teachers training, and this is our next direction. We need really to go toward teacher training for pitch, for prosodic training. So thank you very much. I'm going to unshare my screen. Let's see. Wait.
Okay.
No.
You can try to share now.
We can see it.
Try to share, but I cannot see how to unshare. Now.
No.
Okay. Wait. It's unshare. Stop share. Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't see. Wait. Let me see. Share.
Now I see your screen, Pilar.
Okay. Now is it working?
Yes.
We can see it.
Now
You
I
just need to make it big. Yeah.
Make it bigger. Yes. Now, okay. Great. So let's go now to see the second strategy that we are proposing. And this is using natural co-speech gestures in the classroom. We know that co-speech gestures in general are temporally and pragmatically integrated with prosodic structure. So we have lots of evidence showing that gestures, different types of gestures, align to the most prominent part of speech, most prominent parts of speech, and also that generally the gestures start and end at the beginnings and ends of prosodic phrases. So phrasing and prominence, which are two crucial components of prosody, would be highlighted if using natural co-speech gestures. So we see the idea that co-speech gestures are as a visual highlighters of prosodic structure. And here we also wanted to show you sorry.
Everything.
It just went... I wanted to show you just a small example of this highlighting. So try to see when Danny moves his hands and try to see how he attaches these movements to phrasing and prominence, apart from other functions, right? But the prosodic function is quite nice also.
She tried everything, pressing the buttons randomly, hitting and kicking the machine, and even running into it with her whole body.
Yeah, so the idea is that enacted storytelling involves a high presence of co-speech gestures that you have seen. And crucially, the idea is that you can use these natural gestures to highlight prosodic, semantic, and pragmatic information. So it's like what we say is like a global approach to pronunciation learning. So proposal is to exploit this prosodic highlighting properties of natural co-speech gesture using enacted storytelling. And I wanted to show you just some results, initial results from this idea. So the benefits of storytelling in general have been analyzed for L1 learning, for L2. There are programs of implementing oral narrative programs. And the idea is to add the multimodality more clear, more strongly in these programs. So we have a lot of evidence, right, from storytelling practices involving vocabulary, improvements in vocabulary, in syntax, in narrative organization, and also in global pronunciation. We also see that storytelling provides with a motivating and low anxiety atmosphere, and even some studies have shown that using this technique, you promote students' willingness to communicate in the classroom. So the idea is to use these as a general strategy, as a global approach to pronunciation learning, and then you can obtain benefits at several levels. So the idea was to test these multimodal storytelling programs that we spent sometimes creating also with teachers. And Ting in our group, he's a third-year student in our group. I think he's around. If there are any questions about this, Ting, and he's testing high school students, and Joel is testing primary school students, immigrant students, basically. And the first results that I wanted to quickly show you about this, the fall, Ting and other research assistants basically implemented a multimodal narrative intervention, which constitutes like 6 one-hour sessions on basically in high school classrooms. And this was implemented in 8 classes with a total of 138 students. And the experimental procedure is the same that we use in the lab, but going to the classroom, right? More like an implementation science approach. So at the pre-test, together with many other control tasks at the pre-intervention, they basically performed 3 narrative tasks: untrain, untrain, and personal stories. Then they went through either the regular English lessons in the control condition or through the multimodal storytelling training condition in the target experimental condition. And then they told again 3 narratives: train, untrain, and personal story. The effects on fluency, pronunciation accuracy, and oral narrative skills are being assessed right now, and we wanted to show you just some effects that we get on fluency, which are really nice because they get across you see untrained stories on the left, trained in the middle, personal on the right. And if you see words per minute in the experimental condition, which is the one in red, you can see a nice improvement compared to the control group. And if you look at the number of these fluencies, you see the other pattern. So it's like a very nice initial pattern, seeing how fluency, with 6-week sessions on narrations can be improved. So these are very promising results for Ting's PhD. And and with these, we wanted to close our presentation with this summary of experiments that we have done together with Florence and some current work, and we'll be very happy to listen to your comments. So the main final conclusion, just summarizing, would be that we have some evidence, right? Just showing that embodied training techniques can be useful, right? And the embodied training techniques focusing on phrase-level prosodic structures. Crucially, I think finding evidence for the segmental improvement that Florence has shown is quite relevant, right? And also the fact that 2 weeks after training, you get still some effects, right? Also, the classroom level, we propose 2 strategies that need to be developed, right? We really believe that more embodied communication, it's nice to be implemented in the classroom, and that it really gets incorporated into pronunciation instruction strategies. So we proposed, on the one hand, using naturally prosodic gestures in the communicative interactions in the classrooms, And Florence showed that indeed there is a need to train teachers to do this well, right? So that they feel comfortable doing this. And also quite promising venue is to look at multimodal storytelling interventions. There are many around that have been tested for grammatical structures mostly. And we really believe that oral intervention, oral multimodal interventions can be very nice for boosting also pronunciation. Yes, so thanks very much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the invitation. We really look forward to all your comments. And there's, yeah, we have many other things coming that are related to this, and would like to hear your feedback. So thanks a lot. Gracias per l'atenció. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.